of the Heal Me campaign, Brotherly Conversations. We get it going live on IG, and then we'll be ready to start. All right, tapped in. We're gonna get some more time for our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube people to come in. But we're here again for another night of the Heal Me campaign, Brotherly Conversations. I'm gonna share IG to a few people, and then we're gonna get it going.
All right.
How you feeling, brother?
I'm good, man. Real peaceful day, which is a good thing. I work from home most of the time anyway though, so usually my day is peaceful for the most part, intentionally.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's the move.
Yeah.
That is a move. Shout out to all the people who found work at home.
Yeah, it just kind of found me. Actually, I was fortunate, man. And to be honest with you, I was a bit antsy at first with the shutdown. Like I was so used to going to a brick and mortar, we were able to still go into the office. So I was walking, 2.5 miles every day. I was in good shape. God, get rid of some of this COVID weight, man.
I gained it too,
Yeah.
but I left my full time job with the city government, with DC government last year.
Okay.
So I didn't came back down. I still got a little bit to go, but
Yeah. Yeah. I just need to tone it up. I don't mind the weight. I just want to,
yeah, yeah,
get it right for when I go to the beach this summer.
yeah. All right, let's tap in. Listen, y'all, we are here. It is the Heal Me campaign, Brotherly Conversations, where for the month of May, on the nights of Sunday through Thursday night at 9 p.m., I am talking to other African American men about the challenges and difficulties they may have faced, and then ultimately how they healed through those things to get back to a place of peace, power, and purpose. It started because in 2019, I wrote a song with Grammy nominated artist Raheem Devon called Heal Me, which talks about how my father raised me and taught me inadvertently, right, some very unhealthy practices for coping with pain and difficulty and healing. And so our goal tonight, or our goal with the campaign, is to talk to brothers who have been through what I call their Job moment, right? Darker moments or difficult moments in their life, but we're able to make it out. And our hope is that brothers who might currently be in a difficult space would, one, know that they're not alone. Two, um, know that they can make it out by knowing that we made it out. And then three, hear some of the tactics or strategies that are given by these black men and employ them in their own life or use them in their own life to get back to a place of peace, power, and purpose. Our guest tonight is David Johnson. David, tell us who you are, what you got going on, how we can tap in with you, how we can love you.
All right. So, as brother said, I'm David Johnson. I act as the community engagement manager for the Jordan McNair Foundation, currently in my 9 to 5. The foundation's mission is to educate coaches, parents, and student athletes around heat-related illnesses. After the untimely passing of my good friend and brother Martin McNair's son, Jordan McNair, who was a University of Maryland offensive lineman back in 2018. So, for the last 5 years, we've been doing that work. I also act as a leader in a movement called Band of Brothers. Brothers is an acronym which stands for Black men being accountable, reversing stereotypes, owning our destiny, vigilant in our fight, accepting our leadership roles, and zero tolerance for injustice. I am also a Baltimore Peace Movement ambassador. And the Baltimore Peace Movement is really just about trying to get people to lean into their peace, um, more so than refraining from violence. So I feel like peace is a promise, and that's kind of like our motto. And if we lean into that peace, we will find a more peaceful society if we start with ourselves. You can follow me on IG at DannyOMG33. I'm also on Facebook, David Johnson, Danny Handsome. I'm also a vocalist, so you can find my music there as well. Yep.
Man, you do a lot, brother.
Yeah, I was. So, brother Bobby, we were having a conversation recently. He was like, "Man, what else can you do for community?" And I'm like, "I know it's something else, but I think that was a part of me having to learn how to heal too. Was learning to practice self care. But I'm sure we'll get into that conversation a little bit down the line.
We will, man. Thank you for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you for
Obviously,
having me, brother. And that song is fire. If y'all haven't downloaded it, streamed it. Yo, go do that tonight. Do it tonight, man. Heal Me, man. It's a beautiful song, man. Shout out to brother Raheem Devon. Yo, it's just it's everything, man. It's everything that we need as black men, and it's very, very relevant to what a lot of our situations and a lot of our experiences have been.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and break down the structure of the night for everybody who's watching. For everybody who's tapped in, this is pretty much what's gonna happen. So we're gonna start by actually reviewing the song "Heal Me," and he won't necessarily give us a review of the song, but what he will give us is how he relates to the song and how the lyrics connect to his real story. After that, we're gonna dive right into David's story, y'all. I'm gonna ask David. I'm gonna ask you, David. I'm gonna say, what broke you? If this is fitting for you, then we'll go forward. But if not, then I can change that question. Just say, just
That
describe a
works.
time in your life for us.
That works.
We'll get into your vices, the things that you took on to cope, whether negative or positive. And then after that, we'll talk about transition, right? What experience did you have? What book did you read? What person did you meet? What information did you come in contact with that allowed you to transition into a more positive space? We'll talk about your way up in a sense. What are the things that you used or employed at that time to be able to improve in your wellness? And then we'll talk about what do you do to maintain? What does your daily rituals, practices look like in order to maintain your place of peace, power, and purpose? And then, at the end, we'll actually talk about your P's, your three P's, your peace, power, and purpose. All right. You ready?
Let's go.
So we're going to start by just reviewing the song Heal Me. Um, that's how we're going to get it going. Yeah. This is my prayer. See, my father never talked too much. Just that look in his eyes, deep stares out the window, told me that life was simple. But I would never know what he would never reveal. The sharp look in his face was pain he would conceal. He inadvertently taught me that real men don't feel. So don't follow your heart. Use it to advance your cause, but always follow your thoughts and make a smart decision. You should barely apologize and never ask permission. And when the world does a thing to try to break you down, don't tell a soul. They waiting just to take your crown. Your woman gon' think you weak if you express your pain. Your men gon' say you sweet, though they be feeling the same. So get a vice, couple Hennessy, cigarette, live your life. Whatever you gotta do to get sleep at night. Cause for the longest you probably ain't sleeping right. Or even slept at all. When God calls, don't fight it, take a sigh of relief. That you ain't gotta live no more in this grief. Yeah, the cruel world that we living in is hard and cold. You ain't a man till it scars your soul. Straight up, so don't ever express your feelings. You sit in silence. Cause the only feelings you get are anger, hate, and violence. But see, the system got a process and a plan for that. Time is the only thing you got, so never hand them that. So if you ever truly feel like you about to break, get you a pencil and a notebook, let your mind escape. Writing is the only place where we can feel free. After he died, I read his notebook, he wrote, Heal me. Heal me, yeah. Heal me. Father, don't nobody understand me. I won't make it out unless you come down and heal me. Yeah. Heal me. They don't know the pain I've been going through. I call on your name cause I know that you can heal me. Was he really that strong? Or just putting up a front? Did death come too soon? Or was it something he won? After 66 hard years of hiding them tears, did he get a reward? Well, let me make this clear that I think his vice got him. The thing he used to cope with life just took the life out of him. Them cigarettes that he was smoking all them stressful days. But we still had a few good days, and I knew, cause he would smoke one or two, but otherwise a pack. I used to ask him not to smoke again, but what I should have said was breathe, pop, don't hold it in. We do yoga to get peace these days, but them Carolina preachers didn't teach these ways. It was suffer and survive. If you don't get your blessings in this life, if you tired, you get them when you die. He used to hit that cigarette and play too much, that he got cancer and ain't say too much. He said, heal me. Heal me, brother. How do you relate to
So conversely, like my father was present, man, and I'm grateful for that. Like he definitely talked, and sometimes probably too much. What was interesting growing up was, I would get chastised, and I would get beatings or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I remember once my father, and I felt like sometimes it was for like small things, but I took my lunch money and I purchased the GI Joe action figure. Right, for whatever reason, I got in trouble for this. Um, he asked me, he said, "Would you prefer that I give you a spanking, or do you want to talk about it?" I chose a spanking because every time my father would talk to me, somehow or another, I don't care what I did, I was going to end up dead or in jail. And he's very articulate. So the way that he would break it down, like I didn't want to have to dream about that after. The beating would, it would pass, the pain would be over with in a few minutes. I could go outside, play, what have you. But yeah, my father, he definitely was present. The one thing I will say that I could relate to in that though is, you know, he didn't necessarily try to mask his pain, but he dealt with his pain in unhealthy ways. And I think that I kind of took some of that on as well.
Mm. Thank you for that, man. I relate to that. Choosing a whooping. My mother's for me was either the whooping or being grounded, and I
Oh
would
man,
I would choose the whooping because I know that
get it over with.
that's the way you get it over with. But
Yeah,
being grounded, having to hear all my homeboys playing football in the street outside the house.
yeah, that's tough. And then being like, I don't know if this was your experience, but like we were the popular family in the neighborhood. So everybody, like even if I wasn't punished, they was at our door at like dawn. Like, yo, David and Adam coming outside. Like, yo, can they get up first? My mother used to have to send people away. So very seldom did I get grounded. And if I had a choice, it always was gonna be, I'm gonna take this whooping and then, I'm gonna go outside. We're gonna go to the park and ball.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
a little bit. I was an outside kid for sure, so
yeah,
I was an outside kid. Well, thank you, man. Let's dive in.
yeah.
Uh, I heard you mention your father had some unhealthy habits that kind of related to you, and I don't know if that's what your story is connected to, but we want to just dive right in. So, man, what broke you, man? What was the thing that took you down?
So what did break me was a string of events, and it started with the passing of my mother. And she was 66 as well when she passed. It was
Mm.
untimely, somewhat unexpected. And so that was like the start of me entering this dark space. And then after she passed, a very close mentor, my track coach, Walter Cole, he passed. Another friend of mine, Hector Hendricks, he passed from substance abuse. Then I had a friend, Chuck, that passed that I used to get my equipment from when I was working in the nonprofit space. My man Jimmy passed, who was really big in the music scene here. So it was about Pastor Sutton, who was kind of like a grandfather to me. There was a string of about 8 or 9 deaths. And so it made me sit still. And I think one of the things that my father did that was unhealthy when I was coming up and I would watch him, he would pour himself into his work. He
Mm.
was present, but he would use work as an escape from what it was he was dealing with. If it wasn't that, it was a side chick, and I picked up some of those habits from him. And I feel like it took me a while, even until recently, in order to really acknowledge and recognize those things and then start to come up with a plan myself for how I was going to heal from that pain and that grief and loss.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So the thing that took you down was essentially death.
Yeah, death has been very heavy and present, in my personal life over the last, I'll say 5 or 6 years. And it hadn't been prior. And so I think, in a sense, as sad as it may be, my mom's passing kind of prepared me for what was to come. And I've started to learn. I guess we can get into that piece a little bit later. But yes, that really was what put me into that dark space.
Take us to that dark place if you don't mind.
Um,
What was going on in your head? Like, what was the condition of your spirit during that time? Like, what were you sitting with?
just the gravity of the loss. And really trying to figure out, what my next step was. The memories were very vivid, some very, very joyful, and others painful, just because of what I knew I would miss moving forward. Something as simple as how she would make potato salad, or times we would just sit around and watch movies. And so, having not dealt with a major loss prior, it really put me into a dark space. I still was active and went into work, and I think that that's where those unhealthy habits started to manifest. Like I tried to busy myself with working with the youth and working in community and not really, sitting with the grief. And until it got to the point where I couldn't bear it and it just broke me down. And so it took a while to kind of just build myself back up and to figure out, well, how is it that I'm going to be able to withstand this pain? And really, it came in the form of trying to figure out how to celebrate the lives of those who had passed on the transition, as opposed to think about the loss.
Hmm. You said something that's pushing me to have a curiosity,
Yeah,
and that curiosity is about like you talked about busying yourself.
yeah,
Obviously, you were already doing community work.
right.
Mother passes, other people pass in the community are starting to have an effect on you. You're still doing the community work. Is there a difference in your capacity?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was, full steam ahead prior to my mom's passing and prior to my friends and family passing. And I really didn't know how to slow down. It just so prior to them passing, it wasn't that I was busying myself. I felt an urge, spirit was leading me to do this work, but I didn't know how to slow down. And then once they passed, it got even worse. Like it was like now I need this as a driving force in my life so that I don't have to sit in this grief. So I'm out seeking and looking for more opportunities to do work. Not just because that's what I, feel like I was born to do, but because for the remainder of my days, I felt like I was going to need that in order just to get through the day sometime. But the grief also got to the point where I guess it was when my friend Garen, who was a part of the group BOB that I lead, when he passed, it really slowed me down. It made me sit down and reflect on what I was doing. Um, he had a debilitating disease, and so it made me just think about, how he would have to sit out at times. It made me reflect on the times he wanted to be out and couldn't be. And even though I'm not suffering from anything like that, it made me think, you need to slow your pace. You need to really be intentional about how you show up, when you show up, and how much capacity you have when you do show up.
Yeah. What were you experiencing like? Because I'm thinking, right, even just what you said about how you related to your friend Garen, like I need to slow down. I'm thinking like, what effect was this high level of engagement having on you, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever?
I think physically, it really, I didn't sense that there was anything at the moment that was off until I actually slowed down and I had a health scare last year. I don't know why this happened or what caused it, but my feet started to swell. And so, I went in and got the test run to see if it was gout or high blood pressure, nothing. And so I'm thinking, well, was this stress that I just hadn't properly dealt with? So that was one thing. And but they were mentally, emotionally, I think it was just a way to silence the silence, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like I'm used to being able to sit by myself and kind of sit with my emotions. But this really made me sit and think and process and acknowledge and honor them where I wasn't doing that prior.
Hmm. So when you decided to slow down, what happened? Right? What happened? How did you process once you started? Once you tell yourself, "I need to slow down." I'm assuming,
Mhm.
which is why I pause because I know I'm assuming. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming that once you slow down, you had to sit with your thoughts differently.
Yeah, I had to acknowledge and honor them because my go to used to be, all right, I'm gonna do this work and I don't have to think about this. I'm gonna do this work so I'll feel better. It was almost like a narcotic,
Hmm.
you know. When I wasn't smoking weed, I was doing work. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have to deal with the pain, and that didn't get out of hand, but it was something that I would use as a coping mechanism. So in addition to me trying to busy myself, I was smoking. Had been anyway, Still don't knock it for those who do it. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to do, but I know that I was using it to kind of mask the pain in the moment, and so in a sense, it wasn't good for me. Um, but yeah, like I had to really sit with my thoughts. I had to sit with my emotions, which is something that I struggled with for a long time. I coming up, I would have, you know, bouts with what most people would consider to be depression. I don't know if it was. I was never diagnosed for it. Um, I just would go through bouts where I'd be sad and out of nowhere. This is before any of this had even happened. And so to finally be able to sit and even acknowledge that, even recently, like as Mother's Day was approaching, I felt myself becoming overwhelmed. I was a little stressed about what was going on at the job. But at least now, at this stage in my life, having dealt with and gone through some form of healing, I could acknowledge and recognize the symptoms of what I was experiencing in the moment. Whereas before, I would have just passed it off as, all right, this is just something that I'm going through today, and I'll get through it. And then tomorrow's a new day, and I won't have to deal with it.
What were some of the symptoms that you were feeling?
Sadness, um, just very feeling physically heavy. Um, Sometimes it would come in the form of a headache, which is rare for me. Um, just and not really even being able to like some of it I couldn't really put into word. You ever felt like you needed to cry and couldn't? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like not because the tears are not there, but you just can't. Like there's a pain in you, and you feel like what I need to do is I need to cry or I need to wail, and it just wouldn't come out. And so I think that was one of the more recognizable symptoms. And I think it just it manifested itself not too long after my mom had passed, because when she first passed, I never really felt like I grieved properly, even
Mhm.
during the funeral and everything like that. I cried and all, but like I never experienced the pain that I anticipated until one day it just hit me. And then I had that feeling again recently, and I was like, man, I know what this is and I need to let it go.
But you do cry?
Oh yeah, yeah. I cry about everything. I cried the other day when my son sent me a picture of his driver's license. I'm a very sensitive, if you will, guy. Like I'm moved emotionally, but usually it got to touch me on a spirit level in order for it to move me that way. So, those who I've lost because of what they meant to me, not just their physical presence, but on the spiritual level, is why it took me so long and I had to work so hard to get to this point.
We kind of leading into something else, but you leading us. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What's the value of your tears for you?
Oh man, to me, it's cathartic in that it's a release. It's a release and a relief. It's a release of the weight or the gravity or the pain or even the guilt of feeling the emotion. It's honoring the emotion, and then it's releasing it, because you can't let go of something until you acknowledge that it's there first. And in order for me, this is just my process. In order for me to release that pain, sometimes it has to manifest itself in a physical. And in the physical, for me, that's tears often. It's tears, or, I might, use exercise as a mechanism or meditation. But I know that once those tears come, then, you know, it's washing away whatever the residue was from the pain that was present.
That's dope. Thank you for that.
Oh,
Thank
no
you for
problem, bro. Yeah.
the great transparency. So you're going through what you're going through. You're obviously, your vices in this time is essentially overworking weed.
Yep.
And not necessarily because work or weed are bad, but more because you know that you're using them to run away from having to think and process what's going on.
And it's interesting that you talked about running, because I was a track and field athlete in my younger days, and I would use that then, and didn't realize it. And and I was pretty decent, but I didn't realize it until I got into college. Like, yo, you were running the whole time from your problems. I don't do it as much now. It's more cathartic now because I know the intention behind it is get exercise, to stay fit. But back then I was running, and even still to this day, in a sense, I use other things to run.
Gotcha. So your friend passes. You ain't running no more. You're like, I'm gonna sit down.
I sit down. I couldn't. It hit that death. It sat me down because of so much that had happened prior. It was like, yo, you haven't processed this. It was like back to back. It was like months apart. You know, it might be 2 months. It might be four. Excuse me, but they were so close. It just got to the point where the count was so high. It was like, bro, you have not experienced, a major loss in your life at all, and now you have this consecutive string, and you haven't dealt with the first one properly yet. You got to start there before you can even, deal with any of the rest. So, yeah, that one just sat me down, and it really made me reevaluate how I was processing, all of the grief and the loss that I was experiencing.
What was that time period for you, right? Where it sat you down? How long were you down? Like just sitting down? Like
It was probably about 6 months, and I'm really active on social media and in the community. And during that time frame, I wasn't as present, and I was intentional about that because I didn't want to be distracted from the grieving process and the healing process. So I made myself, sit down. I was intentional about not going out and trying to seek out opportunities to engage. And, I was very receptive to those who understood what I was going through and, were willing to extend help because that's something that I struggled with as well. I'm the one that a lot of people end up leaning on. And often, as Black men, we feel isolated and alone when it comes to that. Even though I'm very in tune with my feelings, I don't reach out to others when I'm going through. Even my wife at times, like I'll try to hold that and power through it. And I think that that's just something that we've been conditioned to do, be it with good intentions or just be it with poor parenting skills or what have you. Like my father's his vice was work and women, and mine ended up being work and we. So it didn't really it didn't shift a whole lot, but I think that even watching some of his healing journey and him being able to forgive himself was also a help in my process as well.
thank you. There's something about your intentional decision to sit down, to stay off social media, to just sit in a place where you're processing. My curiosity here is like fast track.
Mhm.
What was that conversation like in your head? What did you learn? What did you uncover? What did you discover? What were the lessons that came out of that time?
First, my worth, I think more than anything. I was worthy, at that point, I thought, at least then, like now you're worthy of rest. You're worthy of being able to process your emotions. You're worthy of feeling sorrow. Like I had to convince myself that even though I'm somebody that is heavily relied upon, that I'm worthy of these things and the time that it takes to process and to heal from. Like I just I don't know why, but I just convinced myself prior that I couldn't stop because there's so many people depending on me. My siblings, people in the community, the people at my job, the kids in the community that I work with, running the programs for. I felt like I couldn't let them down. But I realized that if I didn't deal with what it was I was going through, that I was going to let them down anyway, because I wouldn't be who I could be to them and who I needed to be to them. And first, who I needed to be to myself in order to be those things.
That's heavy. I'm gonna tell you why it's heavy because when I asked you if your capacity changed, you say, yeah, like I took on more work. I was taking on work here, 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 there, and there. But now on the backside, you're saying, but I also knew that if I didn't slow down and essentially you were grinding your gears. So if I
Yeah,
didn't slow down and process, I was gonna tear the machine up anyway.
yeah, and had been doing it, maybe not even realizing what it was I was doing in the moment. Um, and then really just sitting back and thinking, I want to be effective. To be busy is one thing and to do a lot is one thing, but I wanted my work to be quality and continue to be quality and not be quantity thing. And that was something that I had to figure out because, you know, it's great to be able to say, oh, I did this on Saturday and then I turned around on Thursday and we went here and we fed, people experiencing homelessness. But if I'm not filling my own cup, then eventually I'm gonna be empty, and I'm not gonna be able to fill those for those around me that are in need.
Right. Were there any more lessons that came out of that time? I know the one with
Just self love, self care. Um, definitely learning my worth and my value. Um, Patience, which is something that I pride myself on, but patience with self. I'm very patient with other people. My dog, he challenges me sometimes, and I think that's why he's in my life. But outside of that, like, I'm very patient, and so I had to learn how to be patient with myself, be patient and pace myself. Like, yes, the work is going to be there when you heal. The work is going to be there when you're feeling better. The people will be okay if you're away for a moment and getting yourself together, and you'll be better to them and for them when you return and you've healed.
because we all know what people do when we leave.
What's that?
They keep on going.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you take the time, you sit down.
Mm.
What happened at that 6 month period that made you feel like I'm ready to go? What did you run into? What did you come across?
I don't know if it was a moment or if it was any particular instance that, like, was like, all right, now it's time for you to get. I just feel like spirit was like, yo, you're doing better. You can at least start to work your way back slowly into the things that you were doing in community, and the things that you were doing at work, and for those around you who who count on and rely on you. Um, I do think, though, one of the bigger moments was a celebration of life for my friend Garen, who had passed. Like, we were planning that, we wanted to do something really to honor him because of all he'd given to community. And so that kind of put me in that space. Like, all right, instead of focusing now on the grief, you've kind of, acknowledged that you've done a little bit of healing from it. Now you want to celebrate those just around that 6 months mark.
How death puts things into perspective. And I'm thinking for you, right? There's like a because you said something, I'm gonna bring it up, but I'm thinking for you that there's a sense of autonomy, belief, energy that you walk with. I can tell in your conversation that you have a certain level of confidence about what you can offer in the world.
Yeah.
Did death and the repeated death of people around you, did it alter that at all? Like did it ever just make you feel like what is all of this for?
It actually affirmed it, really, more than anything. All of those lives, they had meaning. They had value. Um, and they had value on a personal level for me. And so it didn't push me back out, into community to do the work, or, even to, do what I do musically, or even, in my 9 to 5 or more further. It just reminded me that what I do is valuable to someone, just like what they did for others and for me was valuable to me. And so I just wanted to make certain that I was maximizing that value when I went back out. And the only way I was going to be able to do that is if I started that healing process. I didn't realize that I'd been like, I feel in some ways I could have done more than what I was doing prior and been more effective. Not so much more in the sense that I was doing more, but the quality versus the quantity would have been even better had I started the process of healing and really learned before that time what my value and my worth was. And so the death reminded me of how valuable and how worthy we are of life and everything that comes along with the work that we do, the benefits that come from it.
Thank you for clarity on that.
Yeah.
Because I definitely wanted to see if it had shifted kind of like your vigor for the work. You said something too. You said it wasn't necessarily a moment. You talked about your friends kind of celebration of life, but you said spirit kind of spoke to you.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a key point here because as we talk about how men have shifted, into more of a positive space, into a more of a back to their peace, power, and their purpose. And we're asking, like, how do brothers do it? Like, what is your process? You went into spirit. Talk about that, like, as if we have no idea. Tell us what that is for you, what that means for you, how you tap in, what's your process for that?
So for me, it was just really tapping in, as you said. It was something inward. It was, looking at what I've been gifted, what I've been endowed with, from the creator, and saying, how can I dissect this and use all of these pieces, collectively to heal myself and then to do more healing in the community. So it was just really kind of, I was already broken. So it was taking the broken pieces and putting them back in a way where they fit and it made sense, to me, not to, not to, eventually, it was a situation where I was going to take all those parts, you know, rework them, clean them, for lack of a better term, whatever I needed to do, and then use them, to give, because I feel like that's my gift, is to give. The gifts that I've been blessed with and endowed with, like that's my mission. Like I am a physical manifestation of love. So I first had to love myself so that I could give that love, to the world.
I am a physical manifestation of love.
Yeah, the spirit dropped that on me one day, man. I was just like, somebody had asked me, like, yo, what are you here for? Like, what is your purpose in life? And, you know, to me, it's always been love. But I said, that's what I am. I'm a physical manifestation of that energy.
I want to reiterate that question for you because I'm still waiting on you to like really hit it on the head. I really want to know, like, what is spirit to you? When you say spirit, what are you referencing? And if I'm a person who doesn't understand, like, how do I tap into spirit?
It's challenging for me just because of my relationship. Because spirit to me is everything. Spirit is in everything. Um, but spirit to someone who may not be, spirit is what guides and leads you to your best or highest self, whatever that is, whatever it's like. If that's something in music that you listen to, or if it's something that you see in grandma, or if it's going to the mosque, or if it's going to a church. I came up Christian, so that was my spiritual base. But I think now I'm probably more agnostic, or I don't know. Like I just don't. I don't. I feel like spirituality and religion are two different things. And spirit is just what leads you to what's right and what's good. To make it simple and plain for those who might, So whatever that is, if it's not a vice, it's not something that's going to harm you or someone else, and it leads you on a path where you're finding fulfillment and you're attaining the ability to access your higher capabilities, uh, your highest good, your greater good, and then sharing that with those around you. To me, that's what spirit is.
Thank you for that. Okay. So we're tapping in, right? Spirit say, let's get to work.
Yeah.
We do work for a homeboy. This puts us back in the place. Once that work is done, there's a sense of like, all right, cool. Now I can get back to it. Tell us, tell us how you got back to it.
Slowly, and very intentionally. So if there was an event that was going on in community that resonated, or it was something that I felt like my presence would add value, then I engaged. And if I didn't, you know, I looked to my brothers, and I might have asked, you look, man, I don't have the capacity. Can you go over here and, help out with this event here? Or can you, give this person a call? Or can you give this person a ride? Like I started really leaning into my leadership more, and that's something else that I struggled with for a long time. I'm usually the youngest. Like it's weird because I'm in this space where a lot of my peers, especially musically, are younger than I am. And so they look up to me. So I'm like the OG. But then the people that I work with in community, they all older than me. And so they looking at me for leadership. And I'm just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Y'all, y'all got the wisdom. Like, why me? And then spirit just let me know, look, you a leader. You have to lean into and accept that. And so it wasn't until maybe the last couple years where I accepted that without reluctance. And so that really was what helped me. It was like, all right, if you can't be there yourself, you still can affect change and be positive in community by utilizing the assets that you have around you, and that's people. Community is our superpower. And if black men really learn that, and start accepting and leaning more into that, we'll start doing some collective healing. We first had to start with self, of course, but once we acknowledge and realize that, then we can make some serious change.
Community is our superpower.
Yeah,
CIA knew that, didn't
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why they infiltrated. You know what I'm saying? COINTELPRO and everything like that. You know what I mean? But
they? If we
you
can
know,
destroy this community, we can get
yeah,
rid of
let's just
these
sprinkle a
organs.
little. What my man Dave Chappelle said, sprinkle a little crack on it. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah. But when we realize what's happening to us and realize who we are, like those are our key moments in our transformation and our ability to empower ourselves. And that's really what was key for me, man. Like I always preach empowerment, but I wasn't empowering myself.
Mm.
I was giving all my power away. And I feel like there are a lot of different ways in which we do that. And so I had to be, and that was another reason why I entered it slowly and intentionally. It was like, yo, you gotta have enough power to sustain self in order to be able to be effective when you go out here and try and help sustain community.
Amen to that. Let's talk about your process now, man. Like
Yeah,
you back. Welcome back.
thank
Right?
you.
What are you doing on a daily basis to stay up, to
Man,
make to take the lesson that you learn, which is I need to love myself better. What are you doing now?
yeah, I'm exercising every day, which was something that I'd gotten away from. So I'm exercising. I'm doing some reading. It don't even really matter what it is. I might even pick up the stick and play the game for a little bit, but I'm very intentional about the time and the content that I'm allowing into my space. So even on social media, I'm very intentional about that. Like I'm sharing something to uplift someone else, but at the same time, it's uplifting me. Like when I go through my memories, when I get up in the morning and I see what I shared, I see the growth sometime. Sometime I'll say, okay, this is a reminder here. So, I'm using social media, I'm using video games, I'm using exercise, things that just entertain myself, calm my spirit. Yeah, it's nothing major, nothing, just anything that I would recommend to a black man. If it's something that's not going to do detriment to you, your health, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, if that's going to get you through or help you in your healing process, do it in moderation, but definitely do it. Like make certain that you edifying yourself and not, continuing to tear yourself down, particularly with your thoughts. So I'm very intentional about that. I'm always, making certain that I'm speaking positive affirmations over myself, my life, my health, my family. So those are things that I've done and they've helped. And I make certain that I'm consistent in doing those things. When I was 18, I don't know, Spirit dropped this on me too. Life is really ABC. It's about adaptability, balance, and consistency. You got to adapt to the things that life is going to bring your way. You got to balance out negative and positive. You got to balance out the good and the bad. You have to balance out the lessons and the losses and be consistent in doing those two things. If you could do that, life ain't going to be easy, but it'll be a little bit more bearable.
ABC, adaptability, balance,
And
consistency.
consistency. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. What game you be getting on?
2K. That's it. I don't really play much else.
Okay.
Yeah, just 2K. You know what I mean?
Got you.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if, you know, you playing the right game.
I don't I'm not like competitive. I'm the guy that's going to play on like the lowest level so the Knicks can win like 150 to 49 or something like that. Like I just because the Knicks been so bad historically. So it
Yeah.
was a good season this year. It was a good season this year.
Anything you can do to take some of the responsibility off your mind.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I tell people that too if they understand that. I said, really, especially as adult and adulting, the thing we all be looking to do is just to remove the weight of responsibility for a moment.
yeah. That's
You know,
why we get into vices and things sometimes that we shouldn't necessarily. But if we're intentional about those things, you can find healthy ways, healthy distractions is what I
right?
like to call them.
Thank you for that, man. This has been good. You've
Yeah.
we definitely have enjoyed following your journey,
Thank
uh,
you.
your conversation of what you went through, and I can tell that you're a strong guy. Um, Shout out to the parents who raised you, man. Shout out to
Thank
your
you.
mom and father.
Shout out to Van and Charnita, man, for sure.
Let's get into the three P's. I'm just
Yeah.
going to ask you these three P's. The first thing that comes to mind, it could be one word, it could be a phrase, but you know what I'm saying, just your immediate truth. Um, when are you most peaceful?
Um, Man, I'm most peaceful when I'm by myself with my thoughts.
Hmm,
And I guess if there's another time that I'm most peaceful is when I'm around family.
thank you for that. When do you feel most purposeful?
Um, when people in community or people that I serve remind me of how much I mean to them and
Hmm.
what I've done for them, how much it's impacted them.
When do you feel most powerful?
Ah, it's hard to say. Like all the time, all the time. There's even in, and I feel like now I'm glad you asked that. That's probably my favorite part of that question. Um, I feel power in even the grieving and healing process. I feel powerful when I'm able to respond to a situation or a crisis in a different way than I would even if it was the day before. So I feel more powerful when I know that I've grown to a space where I'm not going to be defeated by whatever it is that I'm challenged with. And that happens, almost on a daily basis. So I feel powerful the majority of the time.
Super dope. And that's what this thing is for, right? Because I
Yeah,
want I want the brothers who have found that space to come forward and start talking.
yeah,
Um, I just believe that once you've been through a certain thing and you've come out of it, you find your power, your peace, and your purpose in different ways. And so to all the brothers who are out there listening, I want you to be encouraged. Let's do that. Let's do that.
no
Dave,
doubt.
before we go, there's some brother out there right now who's in the midst of difficulty, who's lost a few people, who's dealing with transition and not quite understanding how to cope and move, man. Tell him something. Say something to him.
Celebrate the life and the legacy that was lived, man. Um, as difficult as that might be, that's really all the impact we have. One day it's going to be us. So just focus on what it was that they poured into you and try to pour that back out. And I guarantee you'll be refilled when you do.
Amen. We received that. Y'all, this has been another Heal Me nightly conversation, brotherly conversation. We're here with our guest, David Johnson, who has blessed us with his story and his reality. And we really thank you, Dave, for joining us and being able to talk to us in
You
this
should thank you
capacity.
for having me, brother, man. I really appreciate the platform and the opportunity, man. And we definitely got to link and continue the conversation, man, and build on that music thing for sure.
And build on the music. For those who are tapped in, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you are, once again, I'm Yusha Assad, recording artist, motivational speaker, and master certified life coach. This is the Heal Me campaign. We are here nightly during the month of May. But then all of these episodes are being actually recorded. And I want y'all to know that starting in June, I'm going to be releasing each one of them every 2 weeks for a year so that we can have this consistent kind of conversation about what needs to happen. And so I want y'all to stay tuned, stay tapped in. So when those videos are released, you can share them to someone who may need them. Every story is important. So thank you all. Thank you again, Dave. And we're going to close.